Hi, I'm Hannah.
Hi, I'm Abby.
And this is Filling
The Inksville podcast.
We're back for season 3.
Season 3, past the halfway point, which is pretty exciting.
Yeah.
I hope we get this far. I think this year's been pretty wobbly for both of us at times.
God, I know, yeah. When we first set out on this, we're like, we've got quite a nice, quiet year ahead. Let's set up this big project.
Yeah,
and then,
totally sustainable, totally nothing major happening.
Then life just decided, you know what, let me just throw all this at you. So,
relentless.
Thank you so much for your patience in, obviously, the podcast. We've been just really dealing with some life stuff, haven't we? So we have been slightly delayed, but hopefully this season we'll be back up and running weekly.
Nothing
again.
weird, nothing major is going to happen. The rest of this year is going to be boring, Hannah, I've decided.
We all need to just touch some wood right now. But yeah, fingers crossed, things are going to go smoothly for the rest of the year. But yeah, so season 2 was all about editing, wasn't it?
It was, yes. My favourite season. I was so excited.
We both kind of went into it a little bit tense, a little bit filled with a sense of dread, I think would be fair to say.
Yeah, I think with this, when we discussed the podcast initially, we were like, how are we going to challenge ourselves? Like, the whole point of this, and the whole point of Inksville for us, which we've said many times and we'll say many times again, is we are not perfect writers, we are not perfect people, we are not perfect, flawless. Yeah. Everything we create is just wonderfully crafted and needs no work and just magically gets to the place it needs to be. Yeah. And we want to make sure that we were learning alongside everyone else as we did this. And yeah, editing is definitely where we both were aware we had failings, flaws.
Yes, slightly. And I don't think I realised just how little I knew about the process until last season. So it was just really good. We had some brilliant guests, didn't we? Yeah. So obviously we started out the season with Gareth.
Oh, what a stunner. Such a lovely man. He never made me feel foolish, which I think, especially that being the first interview, I was like, I'm gonna.
I think that's it, isn't it? Like you don't want to ask the questions because you don't want to be patronising, you don't want to feel like a bit of a numpty. But yeah, I think it was just so nice to be kind of cards on the table. What is editing? Talk us through the process. Yep. What do you do?
What do you do, and how do we do that? And basically the thing that stuck with me from his episode was just like, do so much more work yourself. Like, don't expect to hand it to an editor and just be like, there you go, like, this is it.
That was the biggest lesson I think I took from that entire season, just because I really did think, just struggle to the end, editor will sort it. Yeah. And he was just like, actually, you're doing yourself no favours if that's your attitude.
It's going to cost you money and time.
Yeah. And I needed to hear that. So thanks, Gareth.
Yeah. We could have just stopped there, but we didn't. We had the wonderful Adrian for episode 3 as guest 2. Adrian was just... I felt like I was being taught, but in like the most wonderful, humble, like engaged way. Like it felt like a lecture, but in like the best way.
It felt like this sounds really weird, but it felt like an honour as well to kind of for him to share his wisdom with us.
Just basking in it.
Yeah, that's how it felt. I was just kind of sat there and I was like, I was being taken on this journey. So yeah, just his pure knowledge, his pure wisdom, was really fascinating for me. Yeah. Just to listen to someone as well with such passion talk about poetry
and so
such
eloquently,
a beautiful way.
Yeah. I think I speak for both of us. We've both gone back and watched that episode. I watched all our episodes, not in like a we're so great.
There I am.
But I think again, it's something we've mentioned previously, is that when we were interviewing, you're so intent on being an engaged interviewer and being there for that person, that actually we come away and often we need to rewatch it to be like, what did they say again? Because like you're so engaged as an interviewer and not as a listener.
Absolutely, I completely agree with that. And I think sometimes I do get so wrapped up in the interview and the questions that and I'm thinking more from the perspective of people listening to this, how can we kind of tease out information that's going to help those guys? Like you say, I kind of forget about myself in that process. So I was exactly the same. He just had some real nuggets of pure gold that I've really enjoyed speaking to him about, so it was great.
It was fantastic. And then finishing with Kalain, who by the time this comes out, I believe will have performed again at Glastonbury. Yeah, which is, it's just like how cool. Like, I'm sorry, for us to be like one of the, like, all our poets are amazing, but just be able to say like poets are performing at like Glastonbury. Some of the guests this season have performed at Edinburgh Fringe. Little teaser spoiler.
We got some celebs.
Oh yeah, we're hitting it up, but we're very, just classic Abby. I'm just getting a little bit emotional. I really appreciate the time people have spent with us, and
people have just been so kind with their time, haven't they?
Yeah, and generous.
Really, just they're just being able to sit for an hour and just talk about writing is just a really blissful way to spend an evening, isn't it? Because we don't get to do this in day-to-day life.
Nope. You're too busy telling year 11s to get their marks together, and I'm busy writing copy, and it's not the same.
And it's like, even though we are in some way, I don't know, we have followed our degrees, haven't we? We kind of have English degrees,
for sure.
writing degrees, but then at the same time, we're not writing what we want to write. We're not kind of investing in ourselves. You're investing in kind of like your job. I'm investing in my school. So it's like nice,
which is still very valid and lovely.
It is, yeah. But it's just nice to have a bit of time to sit down with these really kind of prolific people and just kind of talk about what works for us, what our writing is. And so again, thank you just so much for listening. It's been so amazing looking at how many of you are actually listening, because when we're in this living room, or we're kind of,
new set,
brand new set, forgot to mention that.
Thanks, my landlord, default on the mortgage.
Yes,
it's fine. I'm totally over it now.
Oh yeah, sticky one. I mean, but it's just really nice to know that other people are enjoying the podcast too. So please do keep your comments coming, keep your suggestions coming, and if
questions coming,
anything you want to see from us, or from what will be the final 2 seasons of the year, please let us know.
And also, like, remember to follow our guests on socials, and feel free to drop them a line and talk to them directly, because that's been a huge joy for us, is the fact that the people we've had conversations with, that we've both brought to the table, and it's been so interesting to have both sides of the coin with us, which I really enjoy. So season 2, do you feel like you learned everything you could? You squeezed everything you could out of it?
I think so, I've just really enjoyed speaking to people who have been through that process themselves as well, because that insight was really important, and especially in terms of, I think I just took away how savage you've got to be.
Oh my gosh,
when it comes to your own work.
Kill your darlings, like Adrian said.
Kill your darlings. Be really ruthless with what works, what doesn't, and if there's anything that you just aren't sure about, cut it. You've got to be a bit savage.
And I like Elaine also, like, such a good one to finish on, in my opinion, was like, no one's going to give you this. Make it yourself.
Yeah. That was really refreshing to hear. That I've spent, I mean, I'm sure we'll come to it in a moment, because obviously the creative task we set for you last time, before we kind of had our break, was to get that second draft finished, and I really enjoyed doing what Colleen suggested, and I sat down and even though I have been working on my novel, I created a little chapbook. I've kind of
that's so exciting.
Maybe me, I've got some typewriters, so I was
of course you do
typewriting them out, and I created a scrapbook of poetry, kind of like he said. How
I love this. You're searching me. You didn't even tell me this before.
Well, it's something I've been wanting to do for a while, actually, and he gave me the kick up the bum to do it with his collection, Call It What It Is, Call It What You Want.
Call It What You Want, I think. I think it's Call It What You Want.
Apologies, Colleen.
But
it was
We've
the collection.
Slept.
Yeah, sorry. Abby's moved house.
You're growing a person.
I'm carrying life.
I'm carrying life. That's such a good line.
So we, I just sat just like he did, and I thought, right, I'm going to put together my own collection then, seeing as no one else will publish me.
Oh,
shut up. And that was really nice. It's lovely to just see your work written down and the pieces you've written. I'd really recommend it. It was very therapeutic.
Well, I haven't actually told you this either. I'm really excited, because by the time this goes out, it will hopefully be live. I went to Budapest, which is just before I moved, which didn't help the whole everything happening. And I'm working on a collection from Budapest, so I'm making like a little map of all the places I've been, and I'm putting little memories, or like it can be the like stuff I thought about, or like quotes that inspired me, because Hungary has a really tragic history, which I was semi-aware of, but definitely nowhere near as aware of as I am now. But it's also incredibly stunning, and I would 100% recommend, if anyone can go to Budapest, to do, because I had the best time. My lovely friend Mark is Hungarian from Budapest, and he showed us around with his lovely wife Emma, because they got married, and it's so nice to say. But yes, I'm working on this collection of poems. I'm gonna turn into a travel guide as well. So because like he gave us all the best recommendations. We had amazing traditional Hungarian food, and like what to eat and where to go, and like what, like it was stunning. It was such a good time.
That sounds like a dream as well, because that's always the hardest part about going on a trip, isn't it? Knowing what to do when you just turn up in this huge city. So he like, they absolutely did us a solid. Like, we were never bored. Great. We were incredibly well fed. Like, stunning. It was amazing. So that's my little that's gonna, like, on the other side of the camera, for those who watch on YouTube, there is just so many boxes. It's a little overwhelming. So my aim is to have that done. It was going to be before the festival, which will also pass by now, but we can say has been pushed. So I've got a bit of time with that.
so I'm going to do that as like a little
That sounds
hangover from
dreamy and enchanting and beautiful. I love that. The idea of it kind of being a map of places you visited. That just sounds lovely.
Yeah, well, I will write it and then maybe we'll go through it and do some editing together.
Yeah. Now we know what to do.
Yeah.
No, that sounds great. Oh, fab.
Yeah. So, great projects.
Yeah, I was just going to say that to you, really. We've kind of both gone a bit rogue, haven't we, with our projects?
I think I kind of anticipated it. I think we acknowledged that last season was a lot of keep rereading and editing the thing that you have written and just spent so much time on. And I think, like, given the last task being do your draft 2, I'm going to hold my hand up. It has not been done, unsurprisingly.
Yeah, that's fair play. You know, I think I've definitely not finished my novel, and I think the idea of getting it done in a matter of 6 months was never going to happen. Yeah. But I'd say the bits...
I liked your hope. Your optimism was great.
You've got to be optimistic, aren't you?
Yeah.
But what I have written I really like because I've edited the heck out of it and I've worked on it a lot. So
what's your word count again? Because you've done well.
Word count now is at something like, it has jumped up a lot. I think I got it to like 38,000.
That's amazing.
Which I know it still doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But I'm at the halfway point
you're
now.
Yeah, literally. I was like, you're so quick to be like, oh, it's not like a lot, but Hannah,
stop.
No, it is good though because you started with, was it your first chapter with your masters?
Yeah, so my masters was 15,000 words, so I've managed to double it.
Over double it as well.
Yeah, so I'm happy with, and I am happy with what I've written. I'm happy with the quality of it as well. I think I've got it up to what Gareth would say is a well-edited piece, I would say, and now I just need the perspective of an editor to glance an eye over it. So yeah, I'm quite happy with what I've done. It's nowhere near ready to be published or ready to kind of be out there. But that doesn't mean I still can't get involved with this season because I've got... That's the thing about being a writer. I've got other things on the side too. I've got poetry I'm working on.
We
I've
are
got
like little
plays I'm
chefs.
writing.
There is constantly 12 things on the hob and something else in the slow cooker, another in the air fryer.
So it's brewing in the back as well.
Oh man, yeah. I just want like a sabbatical to write.
It's done. Well, this is not why I've had a child, why I am currently pregnant.
Well,
but I am excited for that opportunity. I mean, there'll be people right now screaming at whatever they're listening to this on. But I've heard babies sleep a lot. So I'm thinking...
But also, isn't the rule when the baby sleeps, you sleep?
Well, I can sleep when I'm dead. I will write in that time. I don't know.
First parent energy. I'm so excited for this.
God, if we do another year of this podcast, it'll just be me kind of crying into the microphone, I'm afraid.
We'll just have a child like sleeping on you and I'm just going to be like, hello.
Like, this is what I should be writing. But yeah, so I'm going to hopefully get a little bit of it finished then.
I love
I'm
that.
hoping.
No, it's awesome. And I like... You are the most strong-willed person I know.
Oof, I have a good go.
So I have no doubt that like whatever you achieve will be like as a result of like stubbornness and determination, which I appreciate and I value.
But so are you in what happened with your second draft then? Yeah,
so I went on holiday and then I moved house and then life got I quite frankly, I'm not sure if I need to leave these poems alone for a bit. I think just the emotional turmoil of being made redundant, having the flat being repossessed, having to move with my partner. I love my partner. He's wicked, a good friend of yours. You're like, no, he's actually shit. But all of that and like we both know there's other smaller like things, and the sort of line I have in it is like my capacity for like dealing with stuff is just so greatly reduced that the collection I was writing was already quite emotionally draining. I think and I also have quite a lot of like performance, like I've got 2 slams coming up and we've got some other bits like performance wise I think I need it time to invest.
You've been performing a lot recently.
I have been very lucky that like a few people have asked me to do stuff and I've also just been cheeky and I've asked to do stuff and it's paying off, which is lush. And I think with this like Budapest collection kind of being much more intriguing and like I want to build some like interactivity for it, so it's not just like a PDF collection. It's gonna have like hopefully you know it's like click through it and stuff. I'm not saying loads because if it doesn't work out, maybe we'll have to cut that bit of the podcast. But yeah, so I think for me, which I think is also a really realistic thing to say, this collection might just get shelved for a little bit until I have more capacity to kind of process it and essay collection, we all know it got dropped down to a pamphlet / chapbook,
Yeah.
which I'm still not sure if we know the rules for.
Yeah, well, I mean, who makes these rules anyway?
Yeah.
We make them ourselves. But even though that is kind of how this year has gone, it doesn't mean that this season we can't participate. Because in actual fact, I'd say that out of all the seasons, we've got quite a lot to offer here.
I think this is our season.
I don't want to call myself an expert because I'm definitely not, but we definitely have experience in this particular field. So like this season is going to be all about performing and publishing, so it's getting your work out there,
sharing whatever you've created.
So and we do have a lot of experience with that. So
we do, and I think the really exciting thing for me is that me and you are two sides of the same coin. You are publishing and I am performing, and the big frustration of this year, which I'm sure I've mentioned previously, is that I was like, 2024, this is the year I'm going to work on getting published. And it wasn't like a naive, like, I will publish a full collection by Faber and Faber and be like stunningly famous. Yeah. But it was more even just like, I will submit to literary magazines, and then just as this year has gone on with life happening, it hasn't happened.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because other stuff has cropped up and I've been really lucky with opportunities this year. But I am quite ready to bask in your knowledge and be like, tell me what to do, Hannah, help me, give me some direction.
I will try and provide the goods, but unfortunately I think the disclaimer here is there is no kind of one size fits all approach to this. Is that everyone kind of gets into this their own way, everyone gets out there in their own way as well. And I think as well it's just worth acknowledging it's such a saturated industry, isn't it?
Hugely.
So to get your voice
and also
heard,
you just have to try to incredibly talented people, there are so many good writers.
That's exactly it as well. And unfortunately I'm finding that we're progressively entering a world where media is very much, I feel, taking over. So is there as much demand for the written word? I'm coming at this from the perspective of a secondary school teacher, teaching a generation of kids who loathe reading. They cannot stand it. They just want short, relatable content that they can flick through and swipe past if it's not for them. To sit down with a novel would honestly be some of my children's worst nightmare. It's what they see as a punishment, and I find that incredibly sad that this is the next generation, and this is probably who is going to kind of be hopefully reading this work that I'm wanting to produce. And I find it really sad. So are the opportunities becoming more limited as time's going on because of that?
I mean, we're also living in a world where book talk saved the publishing industry. Like, there are so many reports done on like how incredible book talk and bookstagram and book influencers have genuinely revolutionized publishing.
Yeah.
And I mean, at the end of the day, will the written word change to match people's engagement and interest levels? You gotta hope that we're able to evolve,
to bring it back. Exactly. So I think that's all. This kind of season comes with a little bit of a disclaimer. We're just going to talk about our experiences. We're going to talk to some really fantastic guests as well about their experiences, how they got into this. And if they are helpful at all to you, that is brilliant. But again, there is no kind of magic way into
There's
this.
No magic wand.
It's kind of putting yourself out there and just seeing where it takes you, which is part of the fun of it, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Should we name drop our guests now? Should we?
Yes, let's
say who we got.
Yes. Why did I say that? So like yes. She's excited.
Shall I go first?
Yes.
Our first guest is one of my favourite poets, hands down. He is incredibly talented, incredibly generous. We had him at our festival last year because when I was planning it, I think this year I'm taking much more ownership of the festival. I'm like, trust me, Hannah, and you're kind of like, yeah, it's fine. You will. Last year was great, and it's like, if I do say so myself. But last year I was really checking in, and I was like, this is the one person we have to have. And when he agreed, I was like delighted. And his set at the festival was, we had people standing in the doorway because we do the festival at a pub, wanting to watch because he is an incredible comedy poet. And
I mean, there were people just walking past who were just drawn in because of his engagement, because of his enthusiasm, and they're like, what's going on in here? And I was like, oh, it's poetry. And they were like, what? Because they're like, why am I enjoying this then?
Yeah, why is this fun and why are people laughing? So our first guest is Brogan Tysak Carlin, who has been a wonderful friend to me pre-pandemic, which means I feel like I've known him a really long time, even though it's not been that long. And he's just an absolutely stunning talent, and I just can't wait to talk to him because he has done incredible things. Yeah. While remaining the most wonderful person. So yeah, he's the next episode 2 will be Brogan. Guest 2,
Rose Condo.
Yes.
Rose is somewhat of a legend, especially in the northern poetry
100%.
sphere. Most people know of her. I was going to say everyone knows her, but if you don't, please don't panic.
If you don't,
I'm sure she won't be offended. She's also genuinely one of the loveliest people I think I've ever met. One of the most supportive people as well. Rose, I first worked with her anyway when we covered Attic Stories for her, which she runs in Huddersfield. But she is also a very well travelled poet, so she has toured kind of around the country, hasn't she? She's kind of taken to the stage as well to kind of so it'll just be really interesting to kind of discuss with Rose how to perform, because she is an absolutely fantastic performer, and every time I've watched her I have always been completely captivated by her,
like goosebumps.
And just the way she enters the performance as well. I think we talked about that with Colleen a little bit, and he was quite inspired by her too, so just really interested to talk to her about performance, but also B, taking it out into the world, taking a collection out to the world, so we can't wait to speak to her. I
just want to add to my favourite like Rose anecdote is I did a poetry slam 2022 21 a few years ago, a while back, and Rose compared it, and my friends who are really supportive but are not very poetry inclined came to support me, and Rose read this incredible poem which repeat the phrase look up, and it was like, look up how to be less depressed, look up how to be less anxious, look up how to manage and it just keeps going and going and going. I don't want to spoil it, but and if she has a video of this I will happily reshare it because it's stunning, and if she doesn't, Rose, you should film one because it's brilliant. And I got goosebumps, and I get very affected by poetry, and I turned to my friend who is very vocal about how much he doesn't like poetry. He likes me as a friend, but like doesn't like poetry. And he was like, that's poetry. And I was like, yeah, that's poetry. And it was just like a real moment of just like, and it's like I still feel it in my chest. I'm just like, yes, that is exactly, that's how people, when you capture someone, should respond. So yeah, Rose is just an absolute stunner, and we're so excited to have a chat. I
feel really, really honoured that Rose has kind of given us the time, so thank you. And third guest
is the wonderful Dr. Rio Matcher. That is our second doctor of the series. Of the season podcast.
I thought you were saying, when did we last have one?
Rosa Rogers, Dr. Rosa. So Dr. Rio Matcher, which I believe is how we say her surname, I'm going to commit to it now, is the furnace producer at Leeds Playhouse, which is one of my favourite theatres. Like, it doesn't matter where I go, their productions are always stunning, and there's actually quite a few I saw at Edinburgh Fringe last year that I know Rio has brought down from the Ed Fringe with different people, and I 100% recommend checking their programme out. And Rio is a dramaturg. She has a degree in PhD in dramaturgy and all that kind of stuff, and is just always on the hunt for like incredible funky productions in theatre. And when this season came around, I was really keen to talk to her, because I worked with her on a Ramps on the Moon project a few years ago now, I can't remember when it was, and she was just so interesting, and she just so insightful and just so quick, and also so lovely. And I'm just really intrigued to talk to her about how she finds productions, and she is able to kind of, that's what I mean, sort the wheat from the chaff and be like, this is the good stuff, and sort of handpick these little gems that like are so important. And also I don't think have we had anyone talk about theatre previously?
We haven't, no, and it is something that I think we have neglected a little bit.
It's not either of our areas, really.
No, not particularly. I mean, I am writing a little play at the moment, but nothing
that Ben's reading.
Ben's having to read out for me. But yeah, nothing that I'm. So it'd be interesting to speak to her, because I'm not at that stage. I'm not at that stage. Yeah, it just felt like two on the nose, but I'm not at that stage to get it out there, so it'd be interesting to see what she does actually look for when it comes to putting on these performances, and whether mine ticks that box, and where I need to be before I take that forward,
and how you find the ways to get it there. She's stunning. I say this every season, and it's why I'm so like, I I'm really passionate about this podcast continuing in some form, because I just love the fact that we keep having such good people. Like I said earlier, we're just really lucky that people are just like, yeah, sure, let's go for it. And I'm just like, let's do this.
Cool. Yeah.
So yeah, that's our 3 guests this season. Obviously, there's a wee classic. This is the first episode, and then we'll have our 5th episode to kind of sign off and prep for season 4, which is all about reflection, which I think is
final season.
The final season.
Sad times.
Very sad times. So yeah, I'm absolutely stacked. I think one thing before I kind of say let's do the creative task, I'd ask is, what do you want to get from this season? Because I feel like last season we knew what we wanted, which was just everything. What do you want?
Well, for me, I kind of want to learn from people such as yourself and Brogan and Rose, because I've always been, and we've talked about this quite extensively in previous seasons, I've always been what I'd call a page poet. Yeah. So I'm very much interested in how my poem,
page poet.
Thank you. How my poem looks on the page, how it reads. I definitely think about kind of structure in terms of, again, how that looks on the page. And that to me has always been a priority. I do not perform my poetry. I feel really uncomfortable doing it, which is strange because I am a musician, so I've been a performer in the past. So it's not that I can't perform, because I've got up on a stage and I've performed to hundreds of people. However, it's just, there's just something about performing poetry. I think I don't feel my poem lends itself to the stage. It doesn't rhyme. It doesn't really have a rhythm and a flow, but it's got the kind of lines that I'd like people to just sit and mull over, and I think in a way that you can only do if you've got the book in front of you.
I feel like you're, and I mean this is fully as a compliment, you are a glass of wine poet.
Glass of wine poet, yeah, and that's what I want to be. Or an espresso on a Sunday morning poet, where you read a poem and then you just have a moment where you maybe stare at a wall or out of a window and just kind of think about it and then move on. Whereas I think performance poetry is very different, and
it's in the moment, quite visceral.
Yeah, it's got to be captivating. A bit like what you just said there, when you were talking about Rose, I think it was, and how that poem just got to catch you.
Yeah.
I don't think I do my poems justice, because I don't perform them well enough. And so sometimes I finish a poem and I'm like, I thought that was pretty good, and no one reacts, and I'm like, did you hear it? And then maybe they didn't, maybe I didn't perform.
There's a laugh now, there's a cry.
Something. When you don't get the reaction you wanted, I'm not kind of meaning that in a pig-headed way, in terms of, sorry, did you not hear how good I was?
Yeah.
I mean it in a, did the meaning come across there? Did I perform it well?
Have I translated what this means?
So like I've been published many times.
You have?
But not by myself. I've always been published in anthologies. I've always been published in collections. I've published both short stories and poems. And I have racked up quite a bio now, which I'm really proud of. However, I would like to one day have my own collection published where it's just my name and no one else's.
Yeah.
And I would like
to can't share. You're giving only challenge. You are a younger sister, so it does make sense.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Poor Sophie.
I just want to get better performed as well. So that's what I want from this season. And it will be interesting to speak to Rose, because she obviously has got her own collection out there.
Yeah, 2 with Flapjack Press.
Oh, of course,
which are somewhere on here.
Yeah.
Which we will read before we. Well, I will.
Yeah,
I'll lend you one. We'll have a good chat.
But that's me. What about you? What are you hoping to get from this season?
Yeah, I want to get published.
The end.
I have zero qualms about it. Like, it's something my mum. By the way, apologies if anyone can hear the scratching. It is the tortoise. Who is currently in a plastic tub with water and food, and like he's fine.
He's just choosing violence.
He's just like, I am still here. Don't forget me. My mum is very much like, when are you getting, like, not like when are you getting a full collection published, but when are you having something published?
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lisa, I'm working on it. Give me a break.
Please.
But she's right, and it's like I say, something I wanted for 2024 is just have something out there. It would make me feel more confident. I think since I won my first slam a couple of months back now, I feel more like, I am a performance poet. Like, I have been acknowledged, I have been recognised. That was a really, really nice moment, and I think I need that for page. And also, I've just really neglected page poetry because I've been getting so many like performance opportunities that I've either sought out or been invited to, which has been lovely. I'm kind of ready to have a bit more page poetry time, and that's why this Budapest collection is going to be really nice, because I am going to really focus on, I would quite like to read it. In an ideal world, I would love to in the future go back and perform it in the places that it was written about, but that's obviously not going to happen anytime soon. But I think it'd be really nice to really focus on page and how it like looks, and spend that time on actually, like, it have to be quick and rhyme and fit under 3 minutes if you're in a slam and stuff.
Yeah, but then again, I mean, you've got a whole other set of annoyances to deal with, and that is every... and that's me. No, that's Watson digging his way out.
Yeah.
No, it's the idea of this. This is what I find incredibly frustrating. You write a poem and it's, you're pretty happy with it. It's then finding, if you're not doing a collection of your own, a magazine that has got a call for submissions out that applies to your work. Yes. I always find it really hard. I'm like, I've got this really good poem that I'm really proud of and I want to put it out there, but everyone just seems to have really obscure calls for submissions.
Yes.
And
I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but you recently published in an Australian magazine.
Yeah.
And you said they had another call for submission out, and you were like, I think you'd really suit you, Abby. It's about death.
It's about death.
And it just like cracked me up so hard that I was like, thanks, Hannah. Thank you very much.
I could really see your work in that. But it's I think that's the hardest part. It's finding a magazine or finding an anthology that is wanting to feature work that that you can write for, and I find that really challenging. I've got so many poems that I'd love to get out there, but I'm just waiting for the correct time and the correct opportunity, and that's hard. And also the submission guidelines are so annoying. It's like it has to be no more than this many lines, so again, if you've written a slightly longer poem, they're often less desirable, and there are just quite a few hoops you have to jump through.
Yeah, which I excited to hear about, because I actually don't. It's genuinely something I don't know much about, but it's something I think I need to sort of take that little next step on my career.
Yeah, one thing I would say though is, you just need to get your first win in the bag.
We talked about this. I think we talked about this at we always sound like a little cafe.
I think it was season 1 actually.
Really?
Right at the beginning. Get your first win in the bag, so that might be get your first performance done. Just go to an open mic and just do it. It'll be rubbish. It'll be
break
horrible.
the ice.
Do it though, and just get off that stage and be like, done now. Done my first performance.
Well, we should actually reference this, that there's a poet who's going viral on Twitter. At the time of recording, which will be a few months ago for you guys.
Yeah.
Who quoted name dropped Inkspill and was like, I performed at Inkspill and I had such a good time that I recorded my film and now it's done really well on Twitter.
Yeah,
/X.
Got a little bit viral.
And fair play to him for starters for just recording it, because I very rarely put videos of me performing on social media because it freaks me out so much.
Yeah, it's a vulnerable thing to do.
But also, how cool is it that the thing we made has empowered and inspired someone like that, made them feel comfortable.
Yeah. But how cool as well that it was his first ever time performing poetry. He'd only just written that poem. Just on the off chance he came to Inkspill and filmed it, and now he's met a huge success because he was in a newspaper this week, wasn't he?
You're welcome.
Yeah, but that's just great, isn't it? I just think that's so brilliant.
It was wicked. I read it first thing in the morning. I just sent you. I was like, oh my goodness, look at this. And I think you were at work, so you were like, great.
Yeah. It blows my mind. Sometimes it can just be that putting yourself out there just that one time can have such a huge difference. So I would just really recommend getting your first win in the bag as soon as possible. So get your first poem published, just send it to everyone, anyone. You will get string after string of rejection. String after string. I don't know where I was going with that. You'll get strings of rejections, but it's fine. Because one day you'll get a win.
You will.
And it'll be great. I remember I was working at IKEA at the time. I was having a horrible time. They gave me trousers that were too tight and wouldn't let me change them. And I was really miserable.
With steel toe cap boots.
Oh, God,
We've both worked at IKEA. We discussed this previously.
It's terrible. Yeah, I think we discussed it in season 1. And I hated it. And I was walking back through the car park and I saw a rat. And I remember thinking to myself, that's a rat. And then I went on my emails.
Such a good storyteller.
What can I say? This is why I'm not a performance poet. So I went on my emails after seeing this rat, because I was going to message my husband Ben and be like, "Ew, I've just seen a rat." But an email pinged up and it said, actually, you've just been published. And it was my first ever time getting published. And I remember I was in the car park of IKEA, having just done a shift of hell, getting crushed by flatback furniture. And I just remember screaming and just laughing and being like, I finally got my first win, my first
this
published.
is it.
And then as soon as you get that, magically, it just seems to start rolling. So, yeah. That's advice from Mama Han. Get your first one in the bag. Whether that's a performance or a publishery thing.
So, creative tasks for this week. I think we're gonna kind of split this as performance poets and writers, and I guess maybe there's some room for theatre stuff as well. We can I can expand on.
Yeah.
I'll focus on performance poets. Basically, we're suggesting that you research open mic poetry nights in your area, or online. There are quite a few that do them on Zoom.
Yeah.
We love Inksville because we we love Inksville just generally, but we love Inksville because we don't do any spotlight poets, but there are a lot of places that do spotlight poets. Off the top of my head, fun enough, Killane was just at Verbose the other month.
Yeah. And Attic Stories
In our area. Getting Gob in the Lobby in Wakefield. There's so many. I'll do a little roundup of like ones I've been to.
Yeah.
Because that's just in the north, but that's mainly like sort of York to Manchester, that kind of line. Maybe we can get a little thread going, get people to suggest things in our area.
That would be good, yeah.
And there's also some online. I know that Written Off Publishing, that was formerly Bent Key, they do a lot of Zoom ones, which is great.
They do. There's actually a page on it's not Bent Key anymore, is it? It's Written Off Publishing. There's a page where I think Rebecca Kenny has collated all of the events. I
didn't know that.
Even in the north, because we're on it.
Oh, fab.
Yeah, it's a huge list, so I would definitely recommend
that's
have a quick look at Written Off and see if there's anything near you.
Yeah. So if you're a performer, and it doesn't have to be like performance poetry, if you want to read your page poetry, there's also opportunity for that. And I guess there's also like if you're like a uni student looking to like societies and stuff, but just kind of try and find yourself a little community. And in fact, in season 1, I think we talked about finding a writers group.
Oh, season 2.
Yeah. We talked about finding a writers group and maybe see if there's sort of that. Maybe this is a time again to like look into writers group again, which I'm going to be joining yours very soon, which is nice.
Yes.
When I have time to actually write something and read some things.
I've had a bit of time off because of year 11 exam stress, but yeah.
Just living the dream, me and you.
I know.
Performance poets or people who want to perform their poetry or read their poetry, look for open mics, online, in person, and or writers groups.
Super. So if you are wanting to kind of get published instead, whether that be novel writing, short story writing, or poetry, my recommendations first of all would be to think practically about where it is you're wanting to get into. So do you want to self-publish? Are you thinking you just want to get your first thing in print and just give it maybe to a small circle? Are you wanting to reach wider? Are you wanting to kind of go down the independent publishing route? If that's the case, maybe do a little bit of research, a little bit of Googling. Which independent publishers are you interested in? And again, if you just type in indie publishers, I kind of think if you kind of look in the north, if you're kind of listening to this northern, because we've got some brilliant indie northern publishers that are just amazing.
And quite a few events in Manchester as well.
Yeah, they've had some real success as well. I know that there's Blue Moose in Hebden who have recently just had the Gallows Pub turned into a BBC adaptation.
Yep.
So again, don't think because you're going small, you're hindering your kind of success and your reach. In actual fact, if sounds brutal, but if the work's good, it's good. You know, people are going to catch on to it. So, and then maybe start to think about, actually, no, I want to go in with the big ones. Good luck to you, but if you want to do that, you're going to need to get yourself a literary agent, so it's worth maybe looking into who's out there. Again, I'll talk about this over the next few weeks, but literary agents, definitely, I'd be getting myself on Twitter, I'd be having a good research. But basically what I think would be a good starting place for this week is research. Where do you see your work going, and at what level are you wishing to aspire to? The other thing as well, poetry, if you're not really bothered about having a full collection, you just want to be featured in either a magazine or an anthology, just literally Google, this is what I do, poetry submissions, open poetry submissions, or open calls for poetry, or short stories. And there's usually a website, I think it's called writers.com, and they have a full list of people who are currently open for submissions, and they're usually quite good at giving you feedback, getting back to you, and they're usually not too expensive either.
Nice.
So annoyingly, you do sometimes have to pay a little amount to submit your work, but just see what's open, see what's out there at the moment. Final thing from me, so sorry. There's also BBC submissions, so if you have written a play, especially on Women's Hour, and also Radio 4, they're really, really open to new writers. So definitely look in the BBC Writers' Room. There are plenty of opportunities there, and a huge shout out to David from Inksville for putting me in touch with them and kind of reaching out to me with that, because I have submitted quite a bit, and they're really supportive of new writers, so you might just get your win. You might. Sorry, I just rambled for about 7 hours, but that's what I
classic
think.
Hannah. No, all super useful. So that's that's the tasks. That's what we would suggest you guys do. It's definitely something I will probably be leaning on the publishing side myself this time, because I think I've kind of I was gonna say I've nailed. I haven't nailed. Like I've nailed. Like I'm just killing it on the poetry scene. I've done a lot of performing poetry the last 2 years, and I think I'm ready to get my first win in the publishing sphere. But yeah, so we will be back next week. Our episode's now going to go out on Saturdays, so we'll be back next Saturday with the lovely Brogan Ties at Calling, which is going to be stunning. I think that's everything from us.
I think so, yeah. So happy writing. Lovely to be back with you for season 3. Yeah. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.